Good day. This is Richard Lowe from Author Talks. I'm the writing king. I'm a ghostwriter, a book coach, and a LinkedIn branding expert. And I'm here with Michelle Steiner, who is a disability writer, speaker, photographer, and para-educator. I'm sure she's going to explain what that means. She strives to encourage, empower, and educate people with and without disabilities. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Richard. I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. So I think we'll have a good time with this one, talk about a lot of subjects. Why don't we start off by you telling me a little about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband, Ron, and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. And I am a disability writer. I have my own blog called Michelle's Mission, where I combine my love of photography and writing, where I explain what life with having a math learning disability is like. And I also work as a paraeducator in a school for students that have disabilities.
Very interesting. What kind of disabilities?
Well, we see a lot of learning disabilities, so a lot of them similar to the ones that I have. I have dyscalculia, which is a math disability, but we see dyslexia and other kinds of reading disabilities. We also see autism, emotional support definitely is definitely prevalent with a lot of things with our demographics. And we also have visual impairments, which are the ones that aren't those are our low incidence hearing impairment. And I also get a chance to maybe just help some students that don't necessarily have a diagnosis, but they just need a little extra time and attention.
I see. And you've written some books on the subject?
Haven't written books on that. I write a lot of disability related content. I did have 3 stories published in an anthology over the summer called Rediscovering Your Story, and it's available on Amazon. And it was a workshop that people gathered, that they wrote different kinds of prompts on things that have happened in their lives and how they can look back on that and rediscover their story behind it.
That's very interesting, yes. So you said you've published a book at least, though.
Well, we've gotten the stories in the book, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's always a special pleasure to publish a book, or even be published in a book. I've been published in a few anthologies, published a lot of my own, and each one is well, it becomes a little bit old hat after I've done 60 of them, so it's a little old hat after that.
Right.
But yeah, it's always a special thing. I'm sure you're pleased getting published in an anthology. You said 3 articles in there?
Yes, 3 stories.
It's stories. Okay.
Yep. 3 stories.
For a workshop.
Yep. It was really interesting. The people. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of NaNoWriMo?
Yes, I have.
Have you considered taking part in it?
That might be something this November that definitely would be a good idea.
Yes, it's fast and furious. You're writing 50,000 words in 30 days, and it can be exhausting. I've signed up now for 10 years in a row. I've never finished it. The last couple of years I signed up and never even started, so that should tell you my motivation level. But a friend of mine, she's disabled. Her name's Bonnie, and she has she has severe diabetes, and so she has no feet and gets around in a wheelchair and partially blind. And we had a conversation about what she should do, and she was a marketing person, and she became convinced to be a writer thanks partially to our conversation. So she took part in NaNoWriMo, wrote her first novel, and now she's on her 7th.
Wow, gosh, wow, that is amazing.
Yep. And she's just having a great old time. She's basically, her life has come alive again. On this Author Talks thing, she did some of the interviews originally. She interviewed, what's her name? Lackey, Mercedes Lackey, who's a big name author. I think she's done 100 books or something. And that motivated her to get going because Mercedes says, start writing. So she did. So everybody's got their story, but she's disabled. She's very disabled, and I find it exciting that she used that disability to get into her passion now.
Yeah, writing is a wonderful way to do that. I can remember when I was really young, writing was one of the things I was good at because everything else was really hard for me, even as a small child. Learning those basic concepts of anything math related has never been my friend. But just even when we would study for things, I would not do well on them. And I thought life was always going to be really difficult and that I couldn't learn. And I remember, I think I wrote a story about a dinosaur, and my dad read it and he said, "Oh, this story is pretty good." And that just sparked like, "Oh, I can do something. I'm good at something." So I wrote a bunch of stuff after that. And I was a part of an adult writing group whenever I was a teenager. They were just a couple years older than I was, in their 20s. And I think I wrote some really bad poetry and some other really cringeworthy things that I would definitely not want to get published or even consider that now. But I had a friend that told me, "You should really write about having a learning disability." And I was like, "This is too personal. I don't want to write about this. I just want to kind of pretend like it doesn't exist and put that on the shelf." And it took years. And it took a lot of going back to school and a lot of discouragement. But finally, I took her advice and I wrote my first piece. I have limited hand dexterity in both of my hands as well. We didn't find that out until I was an adult. And I was struggling to open up a lock. So I wrote a piece for the Mighty about my struggle with opening up locks with limited hand dexterity. And when I got that first piece published, it was one of the most healing things I ever did. I had people that were coming to me saying, that I didn't even know, I struggled with that too. And I thought I was the only one that had that problem. And
Interesting.
yeah, and I just wrote other articles on my struggles with math and just other things. And I have a lot of people that will say, that's something I really have difficulty with. One person said, "Oh yeah, I was on a 3-way phone call about your article with my family, trying to explain to them that this is what I struggle with too." So that was one of my most interesting ones that I had happen in the past couple of years, and that just encouraged me to write more and to reach out. And I also started my own blog a few years ago. I just started to uh, be able to write about life with a learning disability. And I started a new one a couple months ago where I've expanded. I have a little store where I have my photography, where people can buy artwork on there. Because I also feature my pictures as well, because a lot of times I'll be on a walk because I can't drive with a learning disability. So I get to pick up on details that other people will miss by being in the passenger seat. And I'll be in the car with my husband. I'll say, "Did you see that?" He's like, "I'm focused on the road." And I'll get the chance to see a flower. And if it's in the neighborhood and I don't have I'm on a walk or I don't have a way of getting a ride, I'll go and I'll be able to take a picture of that. And sometimes I'll put it on my blog, or I'll try to combine the blog article with a nature metaphor that kind of describes my experience with having a disability. And another thing I started doing is I put a disability forum on there where people with disabilities can connect with each other and have different kinds of questions that they can respond to.
That's absolutely fascinating. I like the way you've turned a disadvantage into an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
There's I don't know if you watch Star Trek, but there's a Star Trek episode where there's a guy he can't speak or hear,
Mm-hmm.
so he has a chorus. He has people who telepathically connected to him and can do that for him. Well, they die, they're killed, and now he has to figure out how to negotiate this peace agreement without the ability to do that. And he decides that the people who they want the peace, but they don't know how to negotiate it. He tells them, "You have to help me communicate with you. It's your job." And that gets them to communicating with each other. And the famous line there is he turned a disadvantage into an advantage. And that's what I believe. Everybody has disadvantages in some one way or another, and turn it into an advantage. You know, turn it around. My friend Bonnie, with her disability, she turned around. It's a very good example of something that would probably stop the majority of people in their tracks. You're not stopped. That's very empowering. It's very cool. that you've turned it around.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, there's just it's looking for the positive in just a way that around things. I think that's been the main thing. I think that was one of the biggest advantages of being diagnosed when I was really young, is having a learning disabilities lifestyle. So if we can't do one way, we can't do one thing, we find a way to do it, or we find a way around it. And my parents taught me to advocate from the time I was pretty young about doing that. And I agree, you got to see how it can just turn around for something even better.
Yeah, yeah, because life is what you make it. That's my attitude. You
Mm-hmm.
can become a victim to life, or you can take over life. And everybody's a victim to something, but you don't have to act like a victim.
Right.
Of course, there's traumas and things that
Mm-hmm.
happen. Attacks and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I just look at the poor people in the Ukraine who are getting bombed right now. I mean, that's they're victims of that, but
Exactly.
they're fighting back,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have to lay down and accept whatever's going on if it's not to our advantage.
Right.
I'm a ghostwriter, and I write a lot of books on similar subjects because
Mm-hmm.
somebody has escaped from a life of, well, in one case, say alcoholism, or another case,
Mm-hmm.
this woman was actually a slave for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably guess what kind, for many years, and she escaped, and now she's Christian, has 5 kids, and doing very well. So
Awesome.
she turned all of that around, and wanted to write a book. We never finished it because it was too much for her. But I like what's behind you. That's the china cabinet. That's really
Oh,
cool.
thank you. Yeah.
It's a good background for this.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we got that soon after we moved in, and yep.
Do
Thank you.
you do a lot of these podcasts, or is this one of your
Yep.
first ones? You do? Good.
Mhm. I do. I love getting on and talking and sharing my story, and just getting that awareness out about learning disabilities and hidden disabilities. And I just think I love doing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it would be called a disability, but I've been suffered from severe introversion and shyness. They're 2 different things. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
Through most of my life, the shyness took me forever to break. I decided I was going to break it, and you can tell I'm not really very shy anymore. The introversion, I love being a ghostwriter because I'm at home and nobody's around me. So, but I decided not to break that. I decided it wasn't a disability; it's actually an advantage. I can work at home. During the pandemic, I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just work from home. That's what I'm doing now. I don't know why this is a problem, working from home. Um, so I would say that being shy is a disability in many ways, because it causes you not to be involved in the world.
Right. I could, if you can believe it, whenever I was in 5th grade, they give those superlatives that describe people. And they had like, okay, who's the most popular? Who's this? And I got shyest girl. That was what I had, because people thought that I was shy, and I was, because for a number of different reasons. I came in, I was an only child for 13 years. So I had a lot of adult interaction, didn't have a lot with kids when I went to school. And then having a disability with being bullied, sometimes I just wanted to not say very much because I would get picked on. But I wanted to be talking. I wanted to be involved and accepted. And it took a long time for me to become more outgoing and that sort of thing. That really took a long time. And a lot of it's the friends that I had. They really worked with me to kind of bring out and be bold and to talk a lot. And we're still friends 20 some years later from that writers group. And they made a big difference in my life. And it's funny, my husband, he's also very quiet, and he gets to work from home because of the pandemic. And they asked him, do you want to go back to the office? And he's like, no.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'd never go back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was bullied as a kid too.
Mm.
I was the science nerd, and very, very
Mhm.
introverted, very shy. So every day I'd walk to school. We used to walk to school in those days, 2, 3 miles. I
Mhm.
don't think kids do that much anymore.
Mhm.
And I get beat up every day for my lunch money,
Mhm.
bloody beat up. And nobody would do anything. My father didn't do anything. The
Mhm.
principal, nobody cared. So one day I decided, okay, I can get beat up every day, or I can do something about it. So I attacked the bully, I got the crap beaten out of me, but he never touched me again. And, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And, I learned a lot from that. My dad was furious because I got in a fight, but it's like, I'm not getting attacked anymore, Dad, and you didn't do anything. So, and
Right.
they didn't suspend people. It was off school property, so there was nothing they could do about that. But it was interesting that the bully wouldn't. He knew he could beat me, but he knew I wasn't going to take it anymore.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. I can remember I was dating an older guy, and there was a girl that would threaten me. Thankfully, it was just all smoke and wasn't anything, like she wasn't serious about it. And the boyfriend at the time said, I think what you need to tell that person is next time she goes and threatens you and says all this things, just be like, hey, whatever. So one day she was on the phone, and when we had pay phones, and she saw me coming and was yelling and screaming at me and saying all the things that she was going to do to me. And I just looked at her and I said, oh, that's nice. Have a good day, and walked away. And I remember looking at her, this shocked, incredulous face, like, she's not afraid of me.
That was not the impact she intended. Yes.
No, it wasn't. And thankfully, yeah, she wasn't serious. But yeah, sometimes if you can just show people, okay, I'm not going to let you know that I'm upset, and I'm just going to go and enjoy that my day. But sometimes people do leave you alone. It just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I write a lot about cyberbullying and stuff. I wrote a whole series on it. And cyberbullying is a real problem for adults and kids. The problem is that the cyberbullies can be vicious because they don't view it as a human on the other side.
Yep.
And it can be very damaging if you take it seriously. And there's, up until recently, now there's laws. There wasn't much you could do about it because it wasn't illegal. They didn't have any laws for it. Now, as long as it's in the United States, you can do something. And that has improved things a bit. But one of the big problems is in the younger people, they'll take it very, very seriously. And it can produce side effects that are tragic. I'm not going to get into here. And I think that parents would do their children a great service by spending the time to talk to their children about what cyberbullying is, what the cyberbully is trying to do, and the thing to do is ignore it. And if they did that, the problem is, of course, is say some teenager, their friends see all this stuff and they tease them and blah, blah, blah. They all need to be counseled when that happens. And they need to have regular courses and things like, this is cyberbullying, this is what it means. And you guys basically, as you say, need to ignore it. Sometimes it's hard to ignore because they can break into computers and actually cause real damage. Change records and things like that. It can be really bad, especially for criminals. So it's something that's missing from our education system.
It is. I do know we do try to tell our students a lot. I work with, I'll be working with 6th graders, but we do 6th, 7th, and 8th. And we do cover topics such as cyberbullying and how to get along with each other. And definitely one of the things we tell them to definitely report it, but we also try to get them away from engaging with it too. Because a lot of times we'll get kids or we'll get families that they'll have somebody says something inappropriate. Rather than, hey, I'm just going to report it or tell mom and dad what's going on. So they have an idea, and then we'll just kind of leave it to whoever is, supposed to handle that. We'll have people that'll want to repost it. And then that starts the whole chain of just more problems. And I think it's also really hard for our kids too, because one of the things, usually I could leave it at school. When I was getting picked on, generally I could leave it at school, and our kids are just constantly on, and everything that happens, people know about. I also started hanging out with a lot of students that were in a neighboring school district in an art program, and I could shed that reputation. Nobody could. This is way before social media, so nobody knew me. And even when I did come out and say, hey, I have a learning disability, I found a lot of acceptance. And I think that's really hard with kids now that they don't have that chance to just leave it at school. That reputation follows them.
Well, I think the key thing is something that I talk about in the
Mhm.
writings I've done is don't feed the trolls,
Yep.
because the trolls feed off negative
Yep.
energy.
Exactly.
That's what
Yep.
they want. So
Hmm.
basically you ignore them, and they'll keep
Yep.
trying. They'll keep trying.
Hmm.
That's the nature of the troll. But eventually they'll go off to find people who do respond.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing too, because you're always going to have somebody, and you just want to ignore when someone says something like that. Even I see adults, they want to go and try to change what somebody says, and it's like, well, you can't change that. You just have to be kind of like, all right, I'm gonna just move along here, and
Yeah, I run a lot of Facebook groups and message boards
Mhm.
and things during my life, and probably 100 of them. And one thing I learned is they have to be moderated. And
Yep.
unfortunately, with Facebook and social media in general, it's not moderated at all,
Right.
other
No.
than some filters for some really, really bad stuff,
Yeah.
the really deep end stuff. So the lack of moderation, which you can make freedom of speech arguments
Hmm.
around for and against, causes problems. Now, a private Facebook group, if it's mine, I'm going to moderate the heck out of it.
Yeah.
If you're writing bad stuff and you're being a troll, you get one warning, you're gone. Sometimes not even the one, depending on the severity, and that's that. There's no appeal. I'm the boss of I own it. It's my Facebook group.
True. I mean, yeah, I think that's important too. Yeah, to be able to do that. Yep. And it's also been my experience. Sometimes if I have an article that gets a lot of attention, that's usually when I have a lot of the trolls that'll come out, or just strange off the wall comments. And I'm like, okay, this one is going to get a lot of that, and just
There's
let
a
it
there's a there's a phenomenon called review bombing, where
happen.
somebody will write something. It seems to happen to people who have religious stuff in
Uh-huh.
their writings a lot, and then 1,000 people will come in and just write a 1-star review, and on Goodreads or
Okay.
something, and then the 2,000, 3,000. So the person will have a 1-star review showing for their book, but they're fake. Um,
Right. Yeah. That would make sense.
Seems to
Yep.
happen on movies a bit, probably not as much, because movies tend to have a lot.
Hmm.
Movies tend to have so many people writing reviews that it falls more towards an average.
Okay.
It's hard to get 100,000 people to review bomb. Getting 1,000 is not that hard. Um, but it is interesting that people go to those levels, and they shouldn't. Hopefully this doesn't get review bombed.
Hopefully not. Yes.
But if it does, it does. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sweat over it. Um,
Right.
life is.
Exactly.
I've learned in my many years of life that life is too short to sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Yep. Agreed.
We all wind up in the same place, or at least our bodies do, depending on what you believe happens to your spirit at the end.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's very interesting. I like the way you're empowering and educating people with and without disabilities. People often don't believe they have any power,
Yep.
and the news and social media tend to magnify that belief. They make it. They sometimes give you the illusion of power, like, oh, I got 1,000 likes on this, but that's not power. Power and being empowered means being able to make something happen, and you're empowered. You have the power. So, like, you're making things happen with your books and articles and stuff about disabilities, future books possibly
Yes.
about
Hopefully.
disabilities, and
Hmm.
that's very empowering. That empowers you and it empowers other people, and that's very, very cool. So you've taken on the mantle, I guess, of that, and that's commendable, and that's what we should all do. Everybody has something to share that they can help somebody with, or they can help themselves with, at the very least. Even me,
Yes.
even me.
Hmm. Oh, of course. Yeah. Everybody has something that they're good at, and something to give and to share. And it's just people working together on what they are good at.
Yeah, the thing that I found is a problem, is a phenomenon that is relatively recent. The word is relatively recent, called gaslighting. I'm
Hmm.
sure you're familiar with it, but it's not a
Yes.
word that's existed for very long.
Hmm.
But when I read the definition, I was like, oh, that explains a lot about what happened to me in my life. Gaslighters, and that's trolls are basically gaslighters. And gaslighting is, I'm sure people with severe disabilities get gaslit a lot. You can tell me if that's true or not.
Yeah, it can happen because a lot of times people will say, well, that it might have been that person's fault. Or yeah, a lot of times people will dismiss like a lot of their concerns that they might have or try to put it on them as the issue in situations. So it can happen a lot of times.
Oh, it's in your imagination. That's a gaslight.
Yeah, it's in your imagination. Or other people have it worse. Like I get a lot of times because people can't see my disability. I'll tell them, oh, I have a learning disability that's in math. Well, other people have it worse. They're missing limbs or.
That's a gaslight.
Yep. Yeah. Or, oh, you don't look disabled. So, or you have this, you got your bachelor's degree. So you can't have a disability. I'm like, well, yeah, I do. I mean, yep. So
or why are you parking in the disabled parking place?
Right.
Well, I have bad knees. I can walk, but they hurt.
Yeah.
It's a disability that you can't necessarily see, but I have a lot of pain walking from a long distance. So, I don't normally park in handicapped parking spaces, but if it's a long distance that's far away, I might.
Right.
And so why are you parking in there? Well, it's not necessarily easy to get those handicap placards. You have to get a doctor's note, and the doctor has to agree with it, and the state has to agree with it. And yeah, I need it. Why are you questioning me on that? You're right. I've got the placard.
Yeah, you have it, and that's what counts. Yeah, and who's to really question, things like that. One of the things that I've also run into where we do get some gray areas around COVID, I was at a mall and I can't, with my visual perception, I can see the stairs on an escalator, but I can't tell when to get on and off of them. So it's a real struggle. So I use an elevator, and there was a sign on the elevator that this is for people in wheelchairs and have strollers. I'm thinking, well, there's other disabilities or other people that might want to use that. And luckily, there was nobody else around, so I was able to use it. But I think sometimes people just don't have that concept of why somebody might need help. And but I also I had my first solo trip with a group that I'm involved with that I work for to do some marketing. I was invited to go to a Down syndrome conference in Florida and to exhibit a table. And I can remember this is my first flight by myself and traveling alone because I never took a car and did a road trip whenever I was younger. So I looked into all the resources that were available. One of the ones that I was really lucky that the airports that I used had was called the Hidden Sunflower Program. And it was a lanyard that you use, and it indicates a hidden disability. And that is really helpful so other people would know, okay, the staff especially would know, okay, maybe you need to get pre-boarding. Maybe I struggle with my seatbelt. This might be the reason why someone might be struggling. If you're wandering around the airport looking lost, I don't know if I would go with another traveler, but certainly staff members could come up and they would ask if I needed help. And
of course.
Yeah,
that's very, very good that they do that. I don't know if that's in all airports, but it's something that should be implemented.
Yes.
So at least the staff, or even in theme parks and things, so that at least people are aware who need to be aware.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see that in every major airport or bus station. It's a universal one, and it's so simple too. It's not something where you have to knock a wall out to put an elevator in, which is definitely important. It's a little lanyard that you can just call the airport or email them, and they can mail it to you or pick it up. And
cost them a couple of bucks if you include the shipping, and that's a trivial cost.
And train your staff, and that's all that we really we want.
Yeah, and stuff like that's cool. It helps people, and it's extremely low cost. And I certainly wouldn't have any complaints about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people complain about a lot of things. I think people complain too much, and I just look at them and think, that's a first world problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, your cell phone isn't charged, or you didn't get enough likes on that picture. That's not really a problem.
Yep.
Just compare it to people who aren't eating, or people in Ukraine, or people in other countries, or even people in homeless, and your cell phone not charging or not getting the number of likes you wanted isn't really that order of magnitude. You're eating.
Right. And it's a simple problem to fix. Okay, your cell phone's not charged. Well, make sure you charge it. Or
Or you lost your cell phone, so you're going to have to buy a new one. I mean, it's aggravating, and you might have to go to the insurance company or whatever, however that works. And it's annoying, but you will live without your cell phone.
Yes, you will live with, exactly. And I agree 110%.
I mean, I lived for many, many years. We didn't have cell phones. They didn't exist.
Yep.
And we came out just fine. In fact, I think a little better.
Exactly. It eliminated a lot of problems. At least the teachers weren't saying, get off your phone.
Well, at least the boss didn't think that he could catch me 24/7. Like,
yeah, that's true too.
come on in to work. We've got an emergency. That didn't happen before cell phones and pagers and things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a little more of a simple way.
It was in the rotary. I remember the rotary phone.
Yeah, I grew up with that too.
Yep. I don't remember the ones that had the one that goes in your ear, and the one in, the older ones.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I
mean, except in antique stores. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing those, but yeah, it's that. Oh my goodness.
my parents actually had one of the cylinders that was recording, and it was wax, and it recorded music, and those were a pain in the butt.
Oh my goodness.
Because the wax is, not, it's not durable.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and then records seem to be coming back. I've noticed there are more records in stores now than DVDs, and I find that interesting.
My husband collects records, so he likes to do that, and postcards. So that's his thing.
I collect. I paint. I build model kits and paint fantasy miniatures, and collect all kinds of stuff. I'm a collector.
Awesome. That is great.
Yeah, you see the books behind me. Above that is butterflies. I've got butterflies from all over the world.
Butterflies are my thing. That is something I love. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, they're from Africa and South America. They're sustainably. They're done in farms, so they're sustainably got. Nice. They don't go into the wild and kill them. Although butterflies don't live very long, so it's really not a problem.
No, it definitely isn't. Every year we do a butterfly kit, and we get to see their butterflies that'll come out. We had what got me started on this was my husband picked some flowers for me, and I saw I thought it was just a little speck of dirt on the flower, and I'm like, oh well, okay, whatever. And all of a sudden it looked like a little worm, and then I never took it off, and then we realized that was a caterpillar, and had a beautiful monarch butterfly that hatched.
Yep.
Didn't plan it. We haven't had that luck since, so we get painted lady butterfly kits every May or June, and just get to have that enjoyment of watching them and then let them go. And and I love going to butterfly gardens and taking pictures of them. I love butterflies.
Yeah, I've taken over 1 million photos, and a lot of them are butterfly gardens, botanical gardens, national parks, Renaissance fairs, dance shows, WWE wrestling matches. I mean, the whole gauntlet. I've got a great photo of the Undertaker. He's one of the big wrestlers jumping off the ropes right in the midair. I was on the first row. I was in the second row, and those are expensive seats. And they give you the seat when you're in the second row. You get to take it home with you.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
the folding chair, and you just, of course, that's the time I decided to take the bus. So I had to carry this folding chair on a public bus in LA. It was really funny. Still have it.
It's funny.
They're not worth anything, but it's fun to. I got the Undertaker sitting on my chair.
Well, you got a nice memory, and of that.
It was a good
Cool.
event. It was a good event. I don't like the WWE so much anymore. It's become kind of lame.
Mhm. Yeah.
Please don't flame me for that. But I really liked it in the past. You know, I don't know if you're into that, but
Not much, but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, but
when I
it's
was
very
when I was married, it was something that the wife and I found we had in common. She actually liked it, so
Oh,
we'd stay up and watch the pay-per-views, and she'd be like screaming, "Austin, kill him!" You know, like,
it's hilarious.
this is my non-violent wife. It's very funny.
That is.
Wish I had it on video nowadays, but nope. So back in the 90s. Well, okay. We've been talking for about 40 minutes. It's been quite fascinating. Is there anything you'd like to say to your viewers before you are done?
I would just like to encourage people that have learning disabilities to just be able to know what they want and to be able to say that and find a way to do it. And just for other people that help to support other people that have learning disability, to be able to listen to them and help to give them the tools and the resources that they need.
Thank you very much. This has been Author Talks. This is Richard Lowe. I am the Writing King. I am a ghostwriter. If you need a book, contact me. I'm also a writing coach. So if you need help writing or need some tips and techniques, contact me. We can set something up. And also LinkedIn branding expert, which means I can do your profiles and things. And that's about it. Oh, how do people get hold of you, by the way?
You can find me at michellesmission.net.
Okay, yeah, that link will be in the description of this. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming. We'll have more of these coming out. They're coming out pretty fast. And have a good day. Thank you.